Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased that it's cooler than was reported in here yesterday. I had an event in Las Vegas yesterday and can attest to the heat of the desert. So I'm very pleased to be in the cool air today. As Tanda mentioned, I'm Emily Kirkpatrick, Vice President of the National Center for Families Learning. We create opportunities for parents and children with a particular emphasis on relevant real-time learning for parents and children that do not traditionally view learning as something for them, something fun. You may know us by some of our digital initiatives, primarily Wonderopolis, or if you attended Digital Kids in February, you saw our rollout of Renegade Buggies. It's a pleasure to be back with you. When I'm not evangelizing NCFL's message, I'm a busy mom of 3 children under the age of 3, and I can attest to you that they're my real focus group for Digital Kids. It's in this combined view of educational advocate and parent consumer that I join you today. Our first session will be particularly spectacular, connecting kids to characters. It's a conversation about one of the largest toy releases this year, Hello Barbie. Joining us to facilitate the session is Evie, Nagy, of Fast Company, where she writes on creativity and culture. Evie was previously an editor at Billboard and Rolling Stone and has written about music, business, and culture for a variety of publications. Please welcome Evie.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you everyone for being here, and thanks to Digital Kids Summit. I'm really excited to be facilitating this conversation. I've been covering this space for a while for Fast Company, including the work of ToyTalk, and then this year the partnership between ToyTalk and Mattel, which for the first time is bringing speech recognition conversation-based play to Barbie and also to Thomas the Tank Engine, which, as you probably know, is one of the biggest stories in connected play this year. And so I think we'll start by, I'll introduce, this is Oren Jacob, who is the CEO and co-founder of ToyTalk, and Julia Pistor, who is the VP of Entertainment for Mattel. And instead of just reading their bios, I thought we'd take a minute and just each take a minute to tell us your background and how you got here before we launch into the conversation.
Thank you, Evie, and hello everybody. Welcome to day 2. My name is Oren Jacob. I live in the East Bay. 3 kids, 11, 9, and 7, girl, boy, girl, in my house right now. Actually in school right now. School this morning. I spent 20 years at Pistor making films, Toy Story and Finding Nemo, and other projects you've probably heard of back in the day. 4 years ago, started ToyTalk with Martin, and we're a company that believes in the idea of entertainment as conversation. We want to create characters that talk, listen and respond back to audiences and the folks who play with them, and have done digital work for a couple of years. In fact, I was here talking about that 2 years ago at this conference when our first products came to market called the Winston Show back in the day. I released our products last year, and this year began working with Mattel to do a digital product, Thomas and Friends Talk to You, which has been in market now for 6 weeks? Something like that, month and a half. We have some friends also in the audience who know a few things, maybe calling you, so be careful. And we've been working at Hello Barbie now, also since we announced the Toy Fair in February, and that comes to market in a couple of weeks.
That was me that made that strange noise. Hi, I'm Julia Pistor. I'm a producer and executive producer at Mattel. My background, I've been in children's television and entertainment for many, many years. Started at Sesame Street, worked at Reading Rainbow, who I think is going to be here, one of my favorite jobs ever, working there. Was at Nickelodeon during the golden years for 15 years, doing branded content extensions. Started the Nickelodeon Movies division, doing SpongeBob and Rugrats and Nacho Libre and all sorts of things. But was very excited to come to Mattel to help Mattel continue their mission of connecting kids to the world through entertainment and play. And very excited to be working on the Barbie brand for the last year and having the opportunity to bring her to life as a 3-dimensional character through the Barbie partnership with ToyTalk.
Okay, thank you. So Oren, I thought we'd start with you, since I'm sure a lot of people here know the work of ToyTalk, but perhaps they don't, or at least some of the details of what you've been doing. So, can you describe the inspiration for ToyTalk and the various processes, both tech and otherwise, that you've been working on with your products, both obviously your proprietary products and then leading into this work with Mattel too.
Sure. The inspiration for the company actually comes from a moment like mid-spring of 2011. And my daughter Toby, who's 7, now she's 11, that's 11-year-old, was on a mobile phone 2, whatever it was, running Skype talking to Grandma, and it's down in Southern California. When we got off the Skype call, she sort of held the phone and looked at me and said, "Daddy, can I use this to talk to that?" And then pointed over there to Tutu, which is her stuffed bunny. I said, "Well, I don't know. You can't Skype with a bunny." In essence, maybe, I'm not sure. That's a funny question. And that night, talking to Martin, some weeks later, we just debated the sort of deep philosophical nature of what was otherwise, I don't want to say naive, actually a very meaningful question, but asked in a very straight-ahead way by a 7-year-old. Some months later, we decided to build a company on that concept, effectively, which is, can I create a experience that is to a conversation with a fictional character? And the reason that we chose to make that actually be a company and give that a go as a business proposition was 2 reasons. One is we weren't sure we could do it at all. So the ability to craft conversation in a live runtime experience that was credible dialogue and a believable conversation, not an accurate one, but could we even construct that? We weren't sure. So we'll probably find something interesting like trying to do it. And if we did succeed, what would actually happen? And while we could speculate wildly about it, we wanted to go find out, because there was no obvious answer to what would happen if fictional characters could start actually talking back to you and actually respond. What kinds of characters could you create? What kind of stories could you tell? And that just seemed like a very, very fruitful place creatively to go explore. So that sort of was the motivation behind at least one of the sort of origin stories of the company. About, the concept seemed both not impossibly difficult, but super duper hard, but plausible to execute. If that makes sense, back in 2011. And ends up within finding the company and financing the company, the next week Apple announced Siri. We had no idea that was the case. There were Pixar. Steve told us nothing about Apple at the time. We got a lot of calls the next week afterwards. "Hey, can we finance you now?" I'm like, "Well, no, it was a week ago." But it was within like 5 days of closing efforts on financing that Siri became a thing. At the event in September, Apple had it in the city, turns out. So that was a time which you can just begin to get that idea. And so now we're marketing out Barbie this year. Sorry, and you asked about how this.
Oh yeah, I mean, just a minute or two on what I mean, just tell us about sort of the Winston show and what sort of that introduced into the digital connected play.
So our first product was a Winston show with a digital character. Winston is kind of a yellow-looking banana guy, and he's hosting a show you're a part of in conversation 2 ways. So that was a mobile application, and we chose to build that because we could actually animate and control the character and its movement and performance on screen along with the dialogue back and forth. Gave us a chance to try to really craft a conversation on a telephone call is different than conversation on Skype, is different than conversation with a person right in front of you, like at a restaurant or at your dinner table. And the amount of body posture and gesture that matters to performance is very significant, both as it relates to subtext and context of what's being said, separate and apart from the words themselves. And so we chose to execute a character that was animated and could perform on screen as well as talk back to try to put those pieces together. You find that play pattern is very different with Hello Barbie. You're thinking a physical doll is in your hand, not a robot.
Right.
Yeah. So she doesn't locomote herself, but she will speak when you want to talk to her back and forth. But the physicality of that comes from the child's contribution to play, not us on screen. It's a very different. The elements are very different you're playing with there in that regard.
Right.
Yeah.
So Julia, tell us about what motivated Mattel to explore introducing this kind of conversation to both to Barbie and to Thomas, and what were some of the considerations you had going into that? Why this was important to bring this to these characters?
Well, starting with, it's funny, because Thomas and Barbie are 2 very different properties. Aside from the fact that one is a train.
Right, I'm sure there's separate motivations for each one.
But Thomas is started as a literature, so it's a story-driven brand. So it started with a very defined character and very defined set of kind of story principles. So that sort of is one way of telling a story. With Barbie, she's not. She's a character-driven brand. So I don't know if everybody knows. I know lots of people here have worked at Mattel, but the background to Barbie is that Ruth Handler created her for girls, to give girls a choice in the way that they play. So it's all about open-ended play, it's about imagination, it's about being just something that a girl then makes her own stories with. Something that I didn't know, which I love, is they call it the fashion doll. So I was like, oh, she's really fashionable. But when I started working in the brand, I realized Ruth Handler actually was the first person to ever give girls the opportunity to dress their doll in different clothes so that they could aspire to do different things. So our whole brand is about interactivity with the girl. So Hello Barbie was actually perfect, going right back to the DNA, because it's an opportunity for open-ended play and iterative play and experience. I mean, it's a challenge, which we'll talk about, like how do you have to define a character at the center, which was the first thing that we did, and make it a three-dimensional character, but then write stories that are sort of open-ended.
And wasn't it also requested a lot from kids to be able to talk to Barbie?
Yeah, I didn't think that. Yes, there's the Mattel PR, like, Julia, we're not right there. Yes, the number one thing girls say about Barbie, the number one thing when we ask them, what do you want? They want to talk to Barbie, and they want to get to know her. The number two thing they say, which I love, is that when they look at Barbie, they feel that Barbie loves them unconditionally. So those are the two things that were really driving us for
So I think one of the very interesting things about this story is obviously that it's a partnership between a relatively very new startup and a very long-standing, very big brand. So can you tell us a little bit about, and it also happened very fast from my understanding. So can you both of you, either of you, tell a little bit about how that came together?
Yeah, well, we're very proud because we have a long, I mean, you know, the toy business, as you guys know, is like 18 months. I mean, it was for a long time. We're like, nope, it's going to be 9 months. What? I mean, you know, we wanted to print t-shirts that say 10,000 lines because we wrote a script that was huge in a very short period of time. So I'd say it was scrappy, which I think is the best possible way of doing anything. So it wasn't overly managed by brand managers and people like, is it perfect, is it this or is it that? It was really it was really a creative-driven project, I think, in many ways. We had to learn your business, which was hard because we're linear storytellers, and we were very excited to learn how to be three-dimensional storytellers. And so it forced us to go back to the DNA of Barbie. Who is Barbie? What are her core principles? How does she behave? Because she has to be true to who she is. I'm also going to say that we we used the woman who plays Barbie in our movies, and we recorded the lines, and we went back and had to re-record them because it was a learning thing. She read them as if she didn't have any context. So we went back and treated it like creating a character in a movie, both as a writer and as a performer. So we hired a director who directs performances, and we literally gave Erica the context for every single thing. So it's a tremendous amount of work. I should just say everybody's really tired. I wasn't kidding. I have a team, and these guys were, we're just all the time. We were recording all the time. It's amazing and really, really thoughtful. The balance of not being prescriptive and having a girl just here's the script, but trying to create a character that inspires story, inspires comedy, inspires intelligence, inspires relationship and friendship. Takes a lot of really fun, creative thought.
To give a little color to the sort of timing of things, which you asked about, yes, it's 9 months to get a product from decision to do it in the first place to store shelves is shocking in the physical toy industry, broadly speaking. A product of this complexity, I am totally convinced there are 0 people in this room, myself included, and you included, who actually completely understand the complexity of this thing that's going to be sold for $75 on store shelves a few weeks from now. We had a chance to you cut some press a few days ago. We did some testing, in fact, just yesterday, which is the first time that all of the constituent pieces actually come together. And that is a deeply complicated agenda. So you have a physical doll, normal form factor. Inside of the doll is a chipset that gives you a Wi-Fi connection out with an HTTPS secure, streaming audio link inbound, outbound, that can be configured by the parent through a companion app set up to your house. That connects to cloud-based services that run in runtime, recognizing children's speech, applying the brain that you've written for Barbie, the sort of AI mind to decide what to say back, streaming audio both directions back and forth, while the child's playing with it in their house to boot, with beautiful hair play as well. So lovely bit of hair, which is that's a critical feature of Barbie. It was talked about a lot in the first past 2 weeks. So that runtime service, the doll itself, the hardware, the software, the firmware stack, the costuming, her clothes, her aesthetic presentation as well, the mechanics of the doll itself, what can pose, what cannot pose, the charging station, that whole thing went from not a drawing on a whiteboard in December last year to like, I think we should do this in January, to a demo at Toy Fair in February, to store shelves in like 3 weeks from now. And yeah, that's crazy. So the industry, I hope Mattel gets that accolades for moving at a speed that actually was faster than ToyTalk often was able to move at. We're a startup. So they were on turbo's caffeinated speed to pull that off, broadly speaking. And I think other people in the industry, especially at Toy Fair, did not believe that the demo they saw in February actually was a doll talking back. They had to.
Right.
So,
I was going to ask you if you
yeah, no, it's the woman behind. Yeah. They thought we had put somebody in the kiosk, like in the booth, and I twice had to lift the drape up. Like, there's nobody there. And I'm like, what? For real, no joke. And when I asked the question, I'm like, are you serious? I think you got someone down there. Are you serious? I think. Here, I'll show you, and then like, yeah. So that happened to us twice at the fair because folks didn't believe that Mattel or ToyTalk, anybody can move that fast from a thought to do a thing to actually a product together.
Right.
So,
can you actually tell the quick story that you told me about her impromptu interview?
oh yeah, that was terrifying. Yeah. So, who have been to Toy Fair? Raise your hand. Okay, great. So, as you know, when you're showing new product that's not manufactured off the line yet, those are special pieces made for Toy Fair to show industry and show press that will then be on store shelves months in the future. So they're handcrafted, unique elements that are meant to be representative of what the final product will be like. People don't touch those things. Like they're handcrafted for the display only. So Hello Barbie's in her little place at the Mattel booth, and there's a great actress that you hired to do the interaction and conversation with her in like several minute demos, and that's going on at Day 3 Deep. Press was by one day. I think it was CNET, I think it was, but I forget who exactly, had a camera crew and said, "Can we interview Barbie?" And the ladies holding Barbie and talking back and forth to her. And when the person from Mattel had put Barbie down and looked away, the anchor woman reached out, grabs Barbie and yanks her, and says, "Phil, I'll talk to her right now." And everybody in the booth goes, because you like don't do that, right? And so, what's she gonna say? Is she gonna, "Oh my God, she's on camera"? Ah!
Wow.
And so, "Hi Barbie, how are you?" "Fine, how you doing over in New York? Do you like bagels or pizza?" And goes on this whole little thing and does like a killer 2-minute interview on camera. And the whole time we're staring bug-eyed, but she worked flawlessly. Well, that was cool. Thanks, Barbie. Put Barbie down and walked on. She just talked to Barbie, like on camera, and that like totally happened. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. So, but yeah, she had a full interview with Barbie. She did her on-camera show. Her answers were spot on the money. I mean, recognized what was said to her, answered the questions back, had a lovely 2-minute conversation, full on camera, and that actually worked. And I was like, holy cow, we're talking to dolls. That's amazing. So, yeah.
It didn't sound like a robot. I mean, it sounded like it was a real.
Right.
Oh, I need to clarify. There was afterwards recently been asked some questions about that because the demo's like, you see on YouTube, the video's up there. That was a demo written for the New York Toy Fair. The fact that Barbie asked a question about bagels versus pizza in New York was because we crafted it to be for the New York audience. She did not geolocate. And actually important. The question's come a couple times.
Not yet.
Don't say that. She doesn't do that. So just to clarify, that was a custom crafted demo for the Toy Fair itself for industry.
Right.
She does not know about the restaurants in every city in the country. There's no web search on Barbie.
I mean, well, sort of along those lines, you know, what does it mean to bring a character to life like this? Like, how are the expectations of kids different? You know, as you said, like Barbie was created to be an open-ended play experience. This is obviously bringing it to, it's still open-ended, but it's kind of like half open-ended in a way. Like the Barbie and the child are working together to create whatever story it's going to be. So, what are kids how are kids' expectations changing this way, and how does this change the relationship between a doll like Barbie and a kid?
Well, I think kids today are, I mean, they've grown up with Siri. They've grown up with interactivity. But, so I still think it's pretty magical when Barbie talks to them, because Barbies haven't been able to talk. In terms of crafting it to make it feel warm and true to Barbie, again, for us it was an opportunity to make her a character and bring her character to life and not sort of just do a brand extension. We thought of it as yes and, like improv, where we wanted to sort of set, almost just story starters, like, you know, what if you were a mermaid? What would your, house look like? And to encourage girls to play. So, and that is sort of what you do with doll play. I mean, that is what play patterns are. It's like you're presenting something, sort of a story starter for kids that you want them to go tell their own story. Again, to talk about Thomas, what I love about Thomas is one of the only stories where we encourage kids to take that story and go tell their own story. Like we say, here's track. You can buy the train table and you have Sodor, but here's track. Go tell your own story. We want you to go tell your own story. And the same thing with Barbie. We don't want it to be. We don't want her in a box. So we had to construct this, again, very exhausting. And when you talk about Mattel, I think people at Mattel right now, they're all like, 9 months and they're running around. I think when they realize what they've done, when we all realize what we're done, everybody's good. That's why you're tired. It's like,
this is Bert from Mattel, who's worked on this project for a long time. Say hi, Bert.
And he's very instrumental in putting this together. But I also think that, it's scary because girls want to have their own personal relationship with Barbie, and they don't want to feel like there's restricted. So it has to be very open-ended, and I think.
Right.
I think the analogy to improvisational, either acting or performance, is a very good one. We want Barbie as a character, of course, wants to be friendly and agreeable and enthusiastic and encouraging, sure. But translate it down to the actual mechanics of conversation. How do you actually create an experience we have to author, craft, and then deliver to an audience that puts her in that place? And I think the rules of, those of you who's been to improv shows or knows, okay. So if you're involved with improv, comedy, or acting, generally speaking, the yes and always accept the offer and go forward, that those principles actually apply to how to have a nice date when you're out meeting a new wealthy man over in your life and you're like trying to be an agreeable conversationalist. You don't just stop and say no. You don't just like look at your food. You like try yes and tell me more, right? You're trying to engage in conversation and be a good partner in conversation, be a good friend in that regard. And so those principles are very helpful when it comes to crafting this kind of experience. To find out ways Barbie can both answer and acknowledge enthusiastically, but also open the door to the next thing the child will say back. And taking those turns in conversation, both accepting and responding back, is what we try to do.
The other thing I would say also, because I'm living and breathing the Barbie passion, is when you work on Barbie, you get really passionate, because she means so much to so many generations of people. So since 1956, we know what's been in her head. And she's spoken a couple of times, but it hasn't been a true reflection of who she is as a character. So we wrote it, we started again with the character Bible. She's curious, she's adventurous. Anybody who's had 100 jobs would be a curious person.
100 accomplished careers. That's a long LinkedIn profile.
She's the first person on the moon, first person, not just woman. She's the first woman running for president. She's done all of these things. Society's kind of catching up with her. So now's the time to say, what will she say? I mean, you can be a leader, but now, what are you going to say when you're in that spot? So it's just great.
People laugh, but you forget, right? I mean, going to business slacks as one for the first time, which Barbie did, by the way, full stop period, was a big deal back in the 60s, right? I know now in 2015 we're like, oh, who cares? That actually mattered a heck of a lot back then. And Barbie has been that character in many different ways across decades of time. So yes, that's a huge set of backstory and accomplishment that exists with the character, which is very unique actually to write for too.
It is very unique and also tricky because she's not arrogant. She's 17, so you have to think she's sort of an avatar.
She's had a lot of internships.
She's had a lot of internships. So she's sort of and also she is a lightning rod for controversy. So let's not forget that. I mean, just sort of going over the lines and, if we say that, will it be taken out of context? Or, oh my gosh, you can't do this. But you also don't want to become so neutral. I don't know if you guys have seen the funny spot on Saturday Night Live about dolls, where it's like, it turns out being nothing, because you're like, oh no, you can't have that because you'll get this backlash. Right. So, so Barbie needs a point of view because to have a relationship with a little girl, she needs to have a personality. What we loved about working with Oren and the team at ToyTalk is it's not just sort of innovation and technology. I mean, they come from a character-driven place, from their experience with Pistor, which is the gold standard for all story.
Sure.
So we have to start with the character and be like actors.
Right. I was actually going to say that ToyTalk's work is it's not just about technology. Obviously, that where you're innovating is in this conversation-based storytelling. That's where you're putting a lot of your work.
They're equal parts.
Right.
Science and art in this game, broadly speaking. For us in the company's in fact divided actually in half. There are the same number of engineers as there are writers and animators in place because both of those things actually matter to this very much.
Right. How is it different to write for a character like Barbie or Thomas versus your own characters where you can do whatever you want? Like how does the process different? Because obviously you're dealing with both characters, you know, decades and decades of history that you need to both honor and push forward.
Yeah, it's not better nor worse, but it is different in the sense that when you're starting with a new character, the act of creation is defining that world as you go through the process of production, whether that's for a character like Russell Winston show or for film like you both worked on back in the day. It's different working with a character that's existed before. You have to start by steeping yourself in the history and legacy of what that character has done in the past. So at the same time, there is too much there. With 100 careers across half a century of industry, that would be 100 million lines of dialogue we could write, which would be intractable. So you have to both understand what's there, but then pick the pieces that you want to elevate forward and honor specifically as you create the character now and the experience that we're shipping this year. So there is sort of editorial process in that regard of understanding enough of it broadly that you can choose to select the parts that Barbie talks about now as part of that. And then, because this is a conversational experience, as we're bringing this new thing to market, which is Barbie actually speaking, listening, and talking back, I use the word voice here not to be specific to the recording of the actress that's doing Barbie, but her voice as a character, and her attitude and response, which has as much to do with things like how long she pauses in a conversation. Does she interrupt you? Does she not? Does she answer your question first or put it last in the conversation? Those things are all expressions of character that when you meet someone new at the airport waiting for your flight, you deduce by talking back to them 20 minutes about, hey, what do you do? Where do you live? Are you late for the flight too? As you go back and forth, those parts of Barbie now are going to be expressed for the first time and contribute to the definition of her character. We want to make sure you make the right choices based on who Barbie has been in the past that are resonant with what she expresses in this new form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We don't want that to be in contrast to who Barbie should be. So what has she been? Learn a bunch of things you can about that. Then write the character in conversation now and bring that to children in the best way. So maybe it's best to start that.
And I would add to that too, that I think the way, having spent most of my career in branded content, the way not to do it is huge 2,000-page brand decks. Like Barbie can never do this or do that, which could be the case. So it's really getting to the DNA and the source of your character and defining that, which is what we did early on. She's curious, she's adventurous, these are things she likes, these are things she doesn't like. So really, we were the actors. The other thing I'll say is it was a wonderful collaboration because we worked together. I mean, the ToyTalk writers were down every week. We were writing every line together. The brand could talk about this is what we think Barbie, it was completely collaborative, which I think is to make it work as well.
Yes, I strongly agree with that. And those meetings maybe were a little bit long, but but you have to have them, right? You have to talk through all the issues.
I know, and you guys were so patient. Oh, we're like, wait a minute, we have to talk about a needle for a day. For like a needle.
Ooh, okay, put that one in.
We know she sews because she's creative, and you know that she probably makes her own clothes because she, has always been into expressing herself. But a girl could hurt herself with a needle. So.
Right.
Yeah, but these things matter, right? And so,
Sure.
having worked on Toy Story 1, which is from whole cloth, and you're working on that, Toy Story and Toy Story 3 are different projects because you have to look back at what Buzz and Woody did before you can take them to the next place. So in the same agenda, you honor what's been done before, but you can't also be beholden.
Right.
You can't be constricted by it.
Right.
The next project has to move the character forward in some way to make sure that choice is specifically done.
Right.
So it supports what was done before.
Right.
Yeah.
Sort of related, Julia, Barbie's been around for, I think, 56 years.
Since 19, yes.
Yes. So, how do you continue to, obviously, you've got to remain consistent, true to who she is, but how do you, reimagine her to make her remain relevant? Like, what are some of the key things you need to consider? There's obviously a lot of value in having that history, but there are also challenges, I'm sure, too. So as you're sort of moving Barbie forward, both in the context of something like Hello Barbie and just in general, what are the biggest considerations, what are the biggest challenges there?
I think to, again, just sort of go back to the DNA, which is what we always do. What did Ruth Handler create Barbie for? What was the purpose? The purpose was to give girls choices and to really encourage imagination in girls. So going back to the source, that is our ballast. So when I came into Barbie, and there had actually not been a big character bio done on her, which I was surprised, because everybody was scared. Because the minute you write down something, it becomes forever.
That's a commitment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a commitment. And also, and we were also like, well, she can't be perfect. But the other thing is, she's not going to be relatable. She's perfect. So everyone's like, well, what's her flaw, Julia? And so like, I don't want to be the one writing down Barbie's flaws, you know. But again, but going back to character, like just as Oren said, going back to when you are writing a character for a movie or a character for a play, when you're actually going to perform that character, people want to know what kind of shoes they're going to wear as that character. People think about backstory that has never ever shown in a movie, but you need to kind of dimensionalize. So we just go back to the source of Barbie is, you know, curious, adventurous. We think about the relationship with girls. We love that girls look at her and she loves them unconditionally, which is really important to us, so that she's empathic. And she's evolving, like all teenage girls who have their foot in being a kid and their foot in being a woman. She's constantly evolving, and that gives us permission to constantly evolve. Because of course she's a fashion icon, and she's this and she's that.
Right. Right, exactly. And as you mentioned earlier, she's also a lightning rod for controversy. And you know, when Hello Barbie was announced, there was a ton of excitement around it, and then obviously there was also a little bit of a backlash when there were certain parent groups who were concerned about the implications of a talking doll that was at times also listening. And there were also a lot of misunderstandings about the product that sort of fueled this. So you know, why, just to both of you can each speak to this. You know, why do you think the reaction was so strong, and what lessons do you learn, and how is that influencing your work going forward? I mean, obviously you didn't make any changes. You know, you were very confident in the product. So you know, what do you think fueled that, and how is it, you know, as you move forward in this, you know, in a lot of ways, uncharted territory, you know, and I think that had a lot to do with it. People just get, are very wary of new technology and new efforts like this. So, you know, how is this influencing your work?
Yeah, I'm happy to start that one. I guess the product was not available, and it is not yet available to purchase, right? That'll come out in store shelves end of October, early November, so you can all start ordering her in October. So at the time, all we had was the Toy Fair, folks who came to visit us in person at the Mattel booth, and then a bunch of folks about a month later started writing articles without actually being able to purchase a doll to understand what she actually does. They perhaps also could have called and asked the question of us. They chose not to, so that's frustrating on our side. But there were two, I think, foundational misunderstandings about the product that were expressed publicly, and then petitions showed up because of that are just not true. The first one is that some folks thought that Barbie was always on, and that would be akin to how a Samsung TV, Xbox, or a Amazon Echo works. That is not the case. Barbie is not always on, not always on. She only listens when you're pressing down the microphone button, which is a belt buckle that she has on her costuming. So you press the belt buckle down, "Hi Barbie, how are you?" "Fine, how are you?" is the answer back. That's it. So there was a lot of press around that point, which is just foundationally incorrect. We designed that doll for two reasons, not to be always on. First one is for security and privacy. I don't really care to listen to your house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not relevant to what Barbie needs to do. She wants to answer back when kids want to speak to her, which actually is the second reason, which is more important than the first. The play pattern is we want Barbie to respond when kids want to talk to her, and not when they don't want to. So the Barbie doll, when you don't press the belt buckle, works like a Barbie you've had 56 years. It's a lovely doll you can play with as you would normally. When you wish to ask Barbie a question, hold the belt buckle down. "Hey Barbie, what do you think about this?" And she'll answer back when the child wants to play that way, or as they wish. So from a play pattern perspective, we want to support children. Talking to Barbie, having her respond back when they want to do it is a design tenet of the whole project to begin with. So that was confused by folks that published stories about that. At the same time, the Amazon Echo and Samsung TV dramas were unfolding otherwise, and I think that Barbie got wrapped into that because she was a lightning rod herself. So that's the first one. The second one has to do with advertising. There were some comments made about, "Oh my gosh, kids are talking to Barbie, now you're going to advertise back to kids." Let me make this point very clear. We are not putting any sales on Amazon.com from Jeff Bezos as content into Barbie to speak to you about a $3 discount on a DVD for sale on Amazon.com today. That's not going to happen. It will never happen. That's stupid. And Barbie wouldn't speak about that stuff anyway. More importantly, we're contractually obliged with each other, Mattel and ToyTalk, and any other third parties involved in this, to not advertise directly to children through this product or any data collected from it. And it made that promise and commitment to parents in the consent process when they buy the doll now. Now, that particular point was not like the first bullet point on our website 6 months ago. It will soon be very bluntly obvious to anybody who's interested in this product. And we'll make that point very clear in the emails to parents when they sign up for the service for the doll to make it work properly as well going forward. We've elevated the prominence of that statement, but in truth, the relationship was always set up that way. We were never intending to do it, and it committed not to. So I can tell you all we're not doing that. We've committed not to. And that's the promise to make to parents when they purchase the doll. We will not do that as well.
Right. And I just add to that.
Boom, there we go.
What he said. And then I would add that from Mattel's lens, with Barbie being the lightning rod, you have to learn to just have, guts, right? We knew that it was right. We knew why we did it. We did it because we wanted to partner with ToyTalk. We wanted to give Barbie a voice. We wanted to give girls what they always wanted. We were looking for ways to bring content and storytelling to girls in an immersive and sincere and authentic way. So our heart was in the right place, so that we knew we just had to weather the storm, great partners to do it, and when people could hear her talk and when girls experience her, then they see that the proof is in the pudding. And if we are fearful all the time, that's when we as a brand get into trouble. That's when it becomes like the joke on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
So our hearts were authentic. And we know when our hearts are not authentic, we tend to try to actually not move forward, but our hearts are authentic.
I want to add one more additional bit of color commentary here. This is a good conference to talk about that for a second. Barbie needs to recognize speech and process it in the cloud-based service. That's how she understands what's being said and can answer back. That's how the technology works, just like Siri does today, and all those other things too. We're given a choice, as Mattel and ToyTalk, for building a product like this, about putting parents in control of their digital footprint of their family or not, and we're choosing to do that. I think that is a open and obvious way to approach a consumer who probably doesn't know how speech recognition on the cloud works, find a fancy Barbie doll. Like, I don't know what talks, that seems pretty cool, do I want this? Maybe I do. But they don't understand the technology works like we do. So I think it's our obligation to be as open, as transparent, and as obvious as we can about how this thing works so they can make the best choice, you as a consumer, I mean, through you at the people actually purchasing the dolls, can choose to buy or not buy as they want to. And so from that perspective, putting parents in control of the data that is necessary to operate the doll and for us to improve the doll going forward is a choice we've always made with our products. We marketed for 2 years ago. And so we have hundreds of thousands of parents who signed up for our services across the past 2 years. And sure, there's like a complaint or 3 across that time. Most people usually leave the app and move on with their lives, but we want to make sure that the 499,997 folks who did love it get to do it if they want to. And so helping to explain how this works is important to us, and that's why the service is designed the way that it is. That's why we get consent from parents before we connect the doll to our service. That's why we share the data back with parents and let them control it, listen to it, or delete it as they wish to or don't. Because that means it's all just there. We're not hiding anything from anybody. If someone says, what did I say to my kid? That, go play it. Oh, now I know. Yes, you know. Thank you. Okay, we're done with that conversation. Furthermore, I think Barbie said something funny to my kid. Here's everything Barbie can say, which we're about to put up as well too, by the way. There's all the dialogue she can say.
Oh, you're gonna.
Yeah, it's all gonna be up there on Hello Barbie's information sites, the individual parent accounts based on what you play with in your doll as well too. So that is all present, available to be read, listened to, and understood by the parents. And if they want to, listen to and laugh at and enjoy the lovely things their kids say back to Barbie, which are really funny. So that's actually a huge benefit of the service. But also, if you don't, poke the delete button and it's gone seconds later. That's it. It's a very straight-ahead policy. I'm sorry, Silicon Valley's not usually that obvious with data, but I'll let you talk to the folks down south about how they handle data policies. We don't believe in that agenda. So that's kind of how we approached it. I think that it was not very clear to some of the folks in the press who came out about stuff, and I hope will be clear as the product comes to store shelves. The companion app isn't available then, so people can configure their dolls and make them work in their houses and move forward with the service forward.
So just to kind of wrap this up, very generally, like what do you see in the future of connected play, and either broadly or as it applies to conversation based? I mean, where are we going with this? Obviously, it's becoming more and more. Interactivity is coming into every kind of toy across the board. So where are we going with this, or where are your hopes and dreams? I guess
Well, I forgot to mention that I'm a mother of 3 children as well. They're 18, 16, and 13. Boy, girl, boy, as opposed to you. My daughter was a Barbie girl growing up. And when my kids were little, I was like, I don't want those loud toys in my house. I work for a company that made loud toys. I was like, give me everything wooden. I want them, I want them to have wooden toys, and I want them to make up their own stories. And my husband, who's a doctor, was like, don't bring home that Rugrats stuff. We want kids to make up their own stuff. What I love about what's happening now with the innovations that are happening in this space is that it's not linear. The innovation is about still encouraging the source of why we want kids to play, which is so that they can learn, they can imagine, so that they can grow, they can be the best they can be, they can figure out life problems through play. So we're just encouraging that kind of interactivity, not just like, Mattel, we're not just like, we can speak to it more, just like, oh my God, it has to be interactive, it's all toy. It's like finding the right content, matching the kid.
I'll tell a quick story from product testing that we've done, maybe give some insight into this. We were in a house about 1.5 years ago. We had met with the parents, we're sitting with them in the kitchen, and one of their children was off testing one of our apps in their bedroom down the hall. The other siblings came home and entered through a separate door, so didn't see us in the kitchen or sort of in their own room, but you could see, hey mom, hey dad, and it's kind of yelled down the hall. A few minutes later, our character is now talking back and forth to the younger child in the house, and the older siblings heard that conversation. Because they both heard a character they didn't know, and then their sibling answer back, and a character they know, and their sibling answer back. And 3 or 4 minutes later, you see them kind of prairie dog out of their room, whoop, down the hall. Who are you talking to in there? Oh, this is my friend Winston. Who? And they walk in and see the child with a tablet. You playing a game? No, I'm talking to Winston. And then they piled in, and then like a three sibling kind of triangle over the iPad. And I went home and sort of tried to understand about that moment. And what's interesting about conversation as a form of entertainment is that, yes, Barbie will be saying things in hopefully many kids' houses come this holiday season, but they'll be talking back to her too. And so what you hear is not just the noise of a video game coming out that of like, turn that down, stop playing that YouTube stuff again. But you're hearing your own child speak back, and that is very different, because now you're having a conversation, a vocal one, of communication back and forth that you're hearing in your living space. And that is a magnetic attraction. That is not a repulsor. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? That's interesting. I hadn't heard that before. Oh, you're learning more about, there's a joke about Mary Curie and Albert Einstein that Hello Barbie does make relatively early on, which is quite funny. And you're dropping physics bombs in your house now, and like, what's that about? And we're talking about relativity here, and that's your 7-year-old daughter having that conversation, which you've never heard before. I would likely not, unless you're a physics PhD at Cal with your daughter, maybe, but likely not. And that, I was just fascinated by that additional contribution to the play experience, and that how conversation is an invitation. You don't speak to a mirror, you speak to others. That's what the conversation is about, connecting to others. And bringing that to a play experience in the acoustic environment of a house is an invitation for others to come join in too, which I was quite pleased to happen. I hadn't planned that, but just observed that going on, so there's one thought.
It's bringing you guys into the storytelling.
Yeah.
Right. Since it's a cloud-based service, and you can obviously change what comes from the cloud over
Yeah.
time, what are the plans vis-a-vis, adding additional content, and allowing kids to make Barbie younger or older to more closely identify with her, because she could be 100 years old, or she could be 12.
I'll take that in 2 parts. Part 2 first. Barbie is who Barbie is. So we do not let a child maneuver Barbie to be 7 or 27. She's 17. She's the character Barbie is. There is some customization, in particular for religious holiday content, that parents can make in the companion app to choose to go for in or out for Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa as you want or don't. But that's just simply well, that's important. But that's about it. Otherwise, Barbie's who Barbie is. But to the first part of your question, this is a more interesting one, is that yes, it's a cloud-based service. Yes, we can and do regularly update our characters in our mobile apps today as well too. And with Barbie, what will happen is she'll come to market, and about a week or 2 later, we'll take a look and see what kids have said, what parts of the conversation they really dove deep into careers and professions and loved fashion, but didn't care about sports or whatever it was. And then we'll adjust by taking out some jokes or stories. We can put in other ones as well too. To the point of your question, or to answer your question specifically about how often and when, no, there are no specifically published plans for like a Tuesday weekly update. We haven't done anything like that. Broadly speaking, we operate behind the scenes to make the play experience better over time and evolve it based on what children said to us and how long they've talked about and what they've talked about as well too. which is a wonderful gift. That is, in fact, us, as Barbie the character, learning to be a better conversationalist over time. And that's absolutely part of our commitment to do that. As far as the quantity and amount goes, we leave that to our own decision.
Yes.
So it's interesting to just slip straight through the idea that you're having a conversation between a human being and a cloud-based source of information.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, well,
Super cool.
Or a little bit concerned. So I have a new F-350, right? I drove here from Ashland, Oregon 2 days ago.
You mean the truck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't. Okay.
And GPS system came on and said, for some reason, came on and said, voice of command. Siri said, I don't understand what you asked me.
Yeah.
And the truck said, you can now use your Bluetooth. And that was a conversation I had, and by the way, the hippie sitting next to me who I drove to San Francisco.
Well, it sounds like a conversation they had with each other. You weren't involved in that conversation at all.
So the point is this, how much do we worry? I mean, shouldn't the sibling have been talking to their siblings down the hall? How much do we worry as this becomes more and more sophisticated?
Oh, yeah, sure,
We're
okay.
actually doing something that sounds like, looks like, feels like conversation, human communication, but it isn't, and behind it is Mattel. I mean, how much do we think about that?
Yeah, I think about that both a lot and also not at all. So let me take two swings at that in different directions. The act of performance art, as it relates to live theater, to film, to television, and radio, is the act of recreating the human connection, often in conversation. We've been doing that for thousands of years. That's why Greek theater happened. You want to see up on stage the tragedies of Shakespeare. We want to see that play out in film. We want to see that on television. That's how we tell stories as human species to each other, in for that all the way. When it comes to your truck and your Siri having a fight back and forth, Barbie only listens in response to when you hold her belt buckle down. She is not an always-on device, so it would be very unusual for you to time your button presses exactly with their Siri queries back and forth, although I guess you could if you were that weird. but that's maybe not the point of your question, though. Let me go far deeper than to a different place, which is that I am really annoyed that my kids at my grandparents' house drool and watch television. I want children doing things that engage their minds and answer back and respond in some way. Now, we can do that playing video games to a certain extent, and I do support them. I do play games in my house or big Minecraft family. I get that. But if I can involve language and communication in an enjoyable play pattern, holy cow, what a gift. Oh, my goodness. The use of vocabulary, of syntax, of grammar, of idiom, of communicating back and discussing whether Albert Einstein or Marie Curie was someone the kid you or not, in for that for miles, buddy, absolutely. For sure. Now, you may decide that when you sell a Barbie a week later, you don't like the content, or you do. And I'm fine getting a critique about whether or not Barbie's character appeals to you and your family. I hope she does great. I think we build a great character. Not everybody's going to love who she is as a character, but I'm happy at that discussion. Should I not even try to create a compelling, interactive play experience that engages the child in language, vocal communication, which you cannot buy on Earth today anywhere else? Yes, we should do that for sure. What a gift. Oh my goodness. I'm all in for that.
What he said. And I can't even say that. Yes.
I have 3 quick questions. My name is Scott Trailer. 3 short. Can I ask, what kind of information are you asking for in the parental consent form?
Sure. Easy answer. Only parent's email address to get consent, and that's it. That is required for COPPA consent to go back to the parent and get their consent back and forth.
Second question, do you have any community experts?
You can optionally choose to put things in like date of birthday, so birthday content comes up on the date of the calendar, optionally if you want to or don't. But we do not ask for year, just month and date, so we know it's queued up on your birthday on March 7th, whatever it is.
Wonderful, thank you. And second, do you have any community experts that are overseeing or monitoring the conversations that are going on?
Like certain other online services, there are no humans live monitoring. The amount of dialogue we already have from mobile apps would swallow a group 10 times the size to do that. So no, we don't, both for practical reasons and also for we're not interested in listening to a specific child's conversation at any particular time. We will, upon rare occasion, need to debug the service weeks or months later and listen to things to make sure that it's working properly, but that is a very tiny amount there we listen to at all. So no one listens to anything in real time.
Okay, last question. It may be a real edge case, but what happens if a child is playing with Hello Barbie and says, help me, I'm being abused by a family member or a friend?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. We have certainly thought about that. The answer to the question is that there's nothing that ToyTalk or Mattel are actually able to do in that circumstance, because we do not have information either whether that was the child or their friend, pretending we're speaking for real. Additionally, we don't know where they live. We have no geolocation data, we have no address, we have no credit card information, so I don't know how to reach them anyway, nor is it in our jurisdiction to contact authorities who are international or domestic as well too. So, no. We do not monitor for that content. If that were to happen, I should say we've had over 30 million conversations with kids so far. That has never happened to us. It might in our future. And if it does, that's not a way that we cannot help. We have no means with which to do that.
Thank you.
Sorry?
If a child said that, how would Barbie?
Oh, when Barbie's asked questions, maybe back with the character answer for a second. Let me differentiate Barbie very strongly now from products like Siri or Alexa or Google Now. Barbie is a specific character. Specific characters have specific limits, very much. That's why they have limits, so they become characters. If you ask Barbie about the economic crisis in Greece and whether they should be in the euro or not, she will not speak to that, but she'll try to redirect back to you a discussion she can't talk about. That's true of all topics that Barbie does not engage back and forth, and so that would be in that family of content. Barbie will, in a friendly way, move the discussion back to a place she can talk about.
And it's actually, she does it artfully, and we spent hours and hours and days figuring out what that would be.
Yep.
So it didn't feel like it was not satisfying.
Yes, right there.
So I'm a market research analyst and consultant, so I'm more interested in money.
Boom, there we go.
First of all, am I understanding correctly, after you pay the $75, everything comes for free after that?
Yeah, we're committing to the service being operated for at least 3 years in market, based on the retail purchase price.
If that's the case, is there any concern that some of the girls who might have bought multiple Barbie dolls because of the engagement and attachment to this one, maybe she won't buy multiple Barbie dolls anymore? Is that a concern?
Oh, will it cannibalize other?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, our model is making different Barbie dolls all the time, and we find that girls like to tell stories with multiple characters. And Hello Barbie it's not a doll right now that you can dress in different fashion or that you can move around in the way that other Barbie dolls do. So when you look at a girl's room, a girl's room that likes Barbies, they usually have a bucket of Barbies with their haircut drawn on, all sorts of different characters that they've created.
I had quite a large box.
And what about your China strategy? Mainly because number one, this can help with curtailing knockoff products, right? Because there's a technology.
This would be very, very challenging to replicate.
Right, exactly. And then second of all, this can be like an educational tool for the Chinese parents because they want their kids to learn English.
Internationalizing these experiences, though, is much more tricky than you think. When you internationalize a film or a TV show, you have to go one way, English to, let's say, Mandarin. In this case, I have to do two things. I have to take Barbie, have her speak Mandarin. I have to go understand Mandarin coming inbound back at us. Those two things have to happen. We are a year or two or three from being able to do that.
And also we want to be authentic to whatever markets that we're in. So the kind of dialogue or conversation we'll have in China could be very different than the dialogue or conversations that kids have in Brazil. So I think that's something else.
Yeah.
But we all, the way that Barbie has stayed relevant for all these years is by being really sensitive to and being current and relevant.
I think we probably have time for maybe one or two more quick questions. So I saw your hand a while ago. So
Curious as to the age range of girls playing with Barbie and how that impacts the conversation. A younger child playing with Barbie versus an older child. So maybe start with the age and then talk about how that impacts the conversation.
Well, I'll start with that. But the Barbie girls start at 2 years old and they top out. We all know they top out at like 12 or 13. Okay.
Oh, they don't.
But they might say that they top out at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
What is so great about this, the conversation is led by the girl. So the girl, if the girl is sophisticated enough to get into a conversation about physics, then she'll have a conversation about physics. If she's more interested in bunny rabbits, she'll be saying, my favorite thing is a bunny rabbit, and Barbie's conversation will be about bunny rabbits. Again, the conversation is designed to be open-ended and led by the girl, just like we do with the doll.
And just to add a little bit to that, though, language skills across 2 to 12 are hugely different. So if you're looking for a narrower band, I'd say 6 to 8. I know that's first, second, third grade.
For Hello Barbie.
For Hello Barbie
I thought you were talking about
specifically.
for Barbie as a whole.
But as it relates to Hello Barbie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where is that?
narrow down a little bit for Hello Barbies, where it's typically aimed at, I think that maybe a 2-year-old would have maybe difficulty reaching it back.
I think you might throw it
And I would
down.
also say speech recognition is different when you get to that young. If you're preschool below preschool, you have not yet normalized language. You haven't gotten to a teaching environment with 20 kids for 6 hours a day. You're with only your parents. And so once language becomes normalized when you enter schooling, private or public either way, but if you're around a bunch of other kids hours a day, language tends to slot into itself when you're talking to the kids all the time. So that's actually helpful to us to recognize speech then.
Okay, one more question back in the corner there. Action.
Hi, just out of curiosity, as you're going forward here, are you going to be able, if you've got 2 girls together and they're having a tea party, are you going to be able to have the girls talk to each other?
I'm not sure I understand the question, sorry.
So 2 girls have the Hello Barbie.
Each have a Hello Barbie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're now at each other's house and you're playing together.
Oh.
Will they then interact with each other?
The girls or the Hello Barbie?
The girls. Back to back, don't look at me.
I know, it's like a tough
So
story.
you're having a tea party or whenever the girls and there's 2 dolls and 2
It's a great question.
girls.
I'm gonna,
Go ahead.
I'm going to let you answer for the real answer, but just speaking as someone who works for a toy company, when you said that, I love that because what I imagine 2 girls might do is try to get the Hello Barbies to talk to each other. And that, I mean, they would become friends and it just becomes part of the play patterns. You know, that could be one way of doing it, or they're just drinking tea together. I mean, now you can answer right, but I think it's hysterical, 2 girls saying, talk to each other, pushing a button, like, you know. It's
Talk to me next year.
Right.
To answer your question specifically, there's no, this is actually a hard answer on a different angle, there is no way from one parent account to get to a different parent account in the service, full stop period. So we very much rigorously separate your Hello Barbie and your family, and your Hello Barbie and your family do not share data in any way, shape, or form. And your play pattern question, I'm sure that if you made Barbie say anything and the other one held this mic button down, you would pick that up back and forth. I hadn't yet really considered the recursive nature of that conversation, what would happen there. I think that may be fun to play with. But there are no features specifically in the doll to like Bluetooth locate another doll and go, oh, we're having a tea party now at this point in time. No, but it's an interesting question, and it's a great suggestion. Thank you. We'll take that for next year.
I think we're probably out of time. Yeah.
Would you like to wrap up?
Yeah, I think we're at 10 o'clock, but thank you, both of you, so much, and thank you to everyone who came and for asking questions about this, and for Digital Kids as well.